Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Stars and Startups with Varun Gambhir. For a long time, cars have been a sign of wealth, right? But they still hold aspirational value. I think times have changed. In China in 2013, used car sales in China grew way faster than new car sales. That trend is seen here in India as well, right? And I think maybe COVID and some of these things probably change the trajectory of car sales. But I really wanted to dig into that, kind of market and wanted to see what Indians are aspiring to today. So I welcomed a friend of mine, Amit. Hi, Amit. Welcome to the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been some time since we caught up. We've been busy, both of us, and both of us have made progress. I see. Thanks for having me.
Hey man, super. For those who don't know, Amit runs the OLX Qashqai car, which is the car business classifieds of OLX. He's been with them since he helped them set up that business in 2017. Amit, was that when you joined them?
That's correct.
And you have been on an interesting roller coaster ride as well with Snapdeal, with Jabong.com, which is where we had met. And you also went, to Europe and Africa and Southeast Asia with Jumia, which is also a rocket internet company. So you have been with the biggies of the investment world, Naspers and rocket internet, especially in e-com and running startups. But to the topic at hand, as the used car business rebounded now, what are you seeing on the ground?
So I think used car business in India is almost 1.3 to 1.4x bigger than the new car business.
Already, I thought it was just like crossing it. I thought it's like maybe it's at 1 to 1 or just a little bit more.
So we've been bigger than the new car business for a while now, and in China the new car business is bigger than the used cars, by the way. But these ratios actually in US stack up to almost 3x. So the new car sales to the used car sales ratio, it is 1:3 in US. And I think in India we are seeing that trajectory where used car business is growing faster and is expected to grow faster for foreseeable future. This is likely to be a $13 billion industry by 2025.
Wow.
And I think the reasons pre-COVID were that there is an aspirational class which wants to own cars early and which wants to flip cars early as well. So 5 to 7 years ago, the average holding period of a car was 6 to 8 years. That has now come down to 3 to 4 years, which means people are moving up in their career ladder and they are also upgrading the car that they own. Plus, the infrastructure in this country has become better on the roadside, which means that the used cars condition is also not deteriorating at the same rate as earlier. But pre-COVID, I would still say that car was more of a discretionary choice or a luxury spend.
Right.
Post-COVID, there is definitely a shift that we are seeing that cars is now becoming a necessity because of personal hygiene, people not wanting to get into shared transportation, cabs, etc. So people are preferring, and that's a research that we did a couple of months back, which we call OLX AutoNote 4. That was the 4th edition of that research, that very clearly indicated that there is a discernible movement of people in non-metros primarily right now from shared transport to cars. And that is where we see that the used car industry is actually recovered faster in non-metros compared to the metros also. So used cars business is definitely a place where recovery has been good up till now. And I foresee that for the rest of the year and upcoming festive season also.
That's incredible. Yeah. So what you're saying is that folks who don't have access to good infrastructure in terms of transport, public transport, are going to start preferring to own their own vehicles and drive them. If they've taken a call in the last few years not to own one because there were shared vehicles, the aggregators who are offering various other options. because a lot of these bike sharing companies recently have been talking about how bike sharing is probably the best way and safest way that a vehicle or being the public transport. But I guess in the highest income category, they're not even going to trust that. They're rather just going to drive wherever. So what we're ultimately saying is that there's actually going to be a far bigger problem with using common spaces. Parking is definitely going to become a hassle if there are a lot more cars on the road and people are going anywhere.
That's an interpretation I would beg to differ with. I think because of COVID, for at least medium term and hopefully for long term, my expectation is that the total requirement for travel will come down.
Okay.
Right. So 100. I don't foresee us all getting into 100% work from office mode, even in 3 to 5 years from now. I foresee these video calls and podcasts becoming a more important and more integral part of the way we work, and a more efficient part of the way we work compared to the way we were operating earlier. So,
Amit, one moment. You're saying that for half a decade, that's a pretty strong statement to make, right? You're saying for half a decade, we won't actually be able to go out?
No, I'm not saying that. No. What I'm saying is that the way we've been working up till now, and with the changes that have come in the ecosystem, like strong internet connectivity throughout the country in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, it may not be required that all of us go back to the same office as we earlier used to.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that the total amount of travel that was happening pre-COVID, intra-city or intercity, and the total amount of travel that will happen intra-city, intercity, inter-country, it is likely to be lesser, is what I am saying.
Okay, so if you were traveling for work or business, commuting, etc., will reduce because of the nature of how businesses have transitioned to having work from home and kind of making that work a lot better. So even their hiring requirements now, they can hire from across. You can live at home, move to your parents' place, in a tier 2 town, and run it.
Absolutely, I think that's the shift that at least I strongly believe in. That in India, or let me say it, that in last 20 years in India, what we have seen is a services revolution, where the whole economy has been powered by the new age IT tech that we've developed. But this services revolution was created or built on the same foundations as the industrial revolution. You have to stay close to your factory because you have to reach the factory at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. That is how the services revolution also got built. But with so much internet connectivity coming our way, and with the whole situation changing, the services revolution's paradigm can change now. Location is no more a constraint for us. The reason that I stay in Gurgaon is because I work with OLX. But would I need to do that 6 months from now? These are open questions to be answered. And a lot of companies, for example, TCS was bold enough to make a statement that only 25% of the company would be working from office in 3 to 4 years. I think that's the way, and that's the future for us.
But I think it's unfortunately, it's probably the privileged class, which is also the knowledge worker, who probably has the advantage of doing that, right? But as an economy, the knowledge worker is what? It's a fraction of the total workforce, right? Everybody else has to actually physically be present wherever to have this.
So Varun, if we look at the Indian economy, 20% of our economy is agriculture. 50 to 55% of our economy is services, and remaining 25 to 35% is manufacturing. So that interpretation may not be entirely correct. More than half of our economy is services. some of the services and quite a few of these services people or the people who are working in the services part of the economy may also have to come to work, but that is also the part where a lot of them may not have to come to work. Look at Bangalore. I mean, look at Pune, look at Hyderabad, parts of Gurgaon. There are a lot of companies which don't need their offices now. And I'm talking to my friends, and some of them have said, I don't need my office anymore. Why should I have it? There are call centers which have transitioned into work from home model 100%.
That's incredible. But I think it's right now standard practice. I was on a call with a bunch of folks the other day, and a lot of them were sharing their anxiety of working from home for a long period of time because they miss the office. Right? They're missing the office. They're missing that interaction. They're they miss having to do other things apart from wake up, work, do things around the house, some people are mixing it up. I think they're showing up at some coffee shops and just kind of giving that kind of additional opportunity to go and do other things. Maybe you just rent out a large space in a mall, put up a coffee shop, and have people work from there if they want to, man, as a change of scene. It seems like a great opportunity right now.
I agree, and I think that is where the organizations will have to work, and organizations like ours are working with the leadership and the manpower to ensure that we find the right balance when we are working from home. And that is important because this is a new way of working, and not many of us have been trained into doing this. We've accidentally reached there. So we need to gradually learn the fine balance between work and personal life when work is from home.
Yeah.
We also need to figure out the right ways to supplement the other than work interaction and camaraderie that is built between the teams. And organizational culture will start to get a new meaning, and it is going to be a challenging part for the human resource leaders on how to build a virtual culture which is on video calls only, right? Or majority of it. And what I'm definitely not saying, Varun, is that organizations will become 100% office free. But what I'm definitely saying is that they will not be 100% work from office. So I see that difference between 50 to 70% this way or that way, depending on what the purpose of an organization is.
That's kind of cool, right? Because I think there's just going to be so many more business opportunities that are going to show up that you want to solve for. Because now, whatever expense somebody was making on an office space will now technically, well, I'm sure the businesses are happy to save that cost, but they will have to start spending that money elsewhere. And now being a landlord will not be a business opportunity in itself to a large extent, right? We'll have to start doing other things along with that to start making, revenue. Shifting gears back into the car ownership. Is there a stark change in how car ownership has evolved in the last decade that is assisting used car sales?
There is definitely a move towards used car ownership, and I think that's a momentum. That's a sort of mass momentum that OLX created in the last decade, and which is it removed the stigma of either buying or selling a used product. Cars being a strong category of us, it has had a stronger rub-off there. 15 years ago, it was not considered good if you were buying a used product. If you were buying a used furniture, it was not seen positive, or you were seen as somebody, I don't know this guy. But that stigma doesn't exist today, and that's reality for cars as well. Today, I can proudly buy a used car in a condition, and the way I buy it, I feel I am made to experience like a new car. And I'm proud of buying a used car, which fits into my budgets. It is definitely cheaper than buying a new car. Plus, I think what is happening is there is that aspirational class in this country which is moving up in its career faster and which is getting cars which are commensurate to what it thinks its strata or status is, which is where the car ownership periods have shortened from 8 years to 3 to 4 years. And that has led to 15% plus CAGR growth in used cars year on year, which is substantively higher than the new car business.
What's interesting is that you're saying that car ownership timelines have reduced to 3 to 5 years, which is a lot lower than what it used to be, because people used to basically buy and keep the car for a long time, and which is how Maruti also kind of created its own brand. But now there are a lot more options. There are a lot more brands, not just brands. Well, actually, there are probably just a lot more brands, but there are not many models, right? In India, for some reason, we don't keep upgrading the vehicles that often, right? Because like in other countries, there's a new model that gets released every year, just like they release phones, right? So you have for every segment of society or a personality type, there's a vehicle for you, right? Whereas in India, there's not that many options. Does this play into people also keeping the car a little longer, and now that's changing?
New car market has definitely seen new OEMs or manufacturers entering into it and making it more competitive. That reflects in a lot of new companies entering into the country or planning to enter in near future. You've seen MG Motors coming in, Kia coming in, and making a splash. That part also plays in how the used car ecosystem works and evolves, because a significant percentage of used car supply enters when a new car is sold on an exchange in this country. And if the new car engine starts to roll faster, the used car engine rolls even faster. When you are talking about upgrades, I think as the market becomes more competitive, OEMs will be forced to innovate, and they have innovated. Can more innovation come in this market? Why not? I would want to see as many cars as our personalities are, right? But I think that's how any industry or any geography evolves. I am made to understand that the Chinese market in new cars is far more competitive. And the way market shares look like, there are far more long tail. And that is also one of the reasons that the used car market is actually smaller in China compared to the new cars, because your new cars are upgrading at a very, very rapid pace. And by the time you start looking at a used car, you already have a new car delivering the same value and almost the same price. You don't want to buy a phone which is 3 years old and a used phone, right? Because there is a new phone almost at the same price with almost the same functionalities and RAM and memory and
probably better
stuff. Probably better. Yeah, that's correct.
When I was graduating from business school, I went to the market trying to see if I want to get a car, because the place I worked at that time was very far from where I was, and public transport is not great, especially on those routes. You have to take the highway and then do all these things. And American highway is extremely boring. I could buy a Mustang for $1,000. I mean, in conversion, that's 50,000 rupees, right? I could buy a 15-year-old Mustang for 50,000 rupees, and my mind is blown, because even petrol, gas as they call it in the US, is not expensive, right? So you can get a decently functioning vehicle, and a lot of the mid to lower income segments just buy second, third, fourth, fifth hand, right, for $800, $600. And I'm like, how is this even happening, right? Because I've never seen those numbers. I mean, maybe now you can buy a 15-year-old, maybe a Wagon R for 80,000 rupees, right? which will be in that range, I guess, $1,000, $1,200. But it's not a Mustang for sure. It's definitely not a Mustang.
Probably get there. We also have to understand the difference between the infrastructure which deteriorates the cars between a developed world country and the developing world country.
Sure.
That also plays a major role in actually the condition of the car.
Speaking of which, when are EVs really going to take over this space? I mean, is that going to accelerate second-hand car business or not? Because I feel like people will want to move, and now the Delhi government is given incentives and perks to buy an electric vehicle, right? I don't think they have enough options. Definitely nobody has a Tesla option here. And Tata has just launched their EV, and I think they're one of the first brands to launch a fully EVs, apart from I think Mahindra's Reebok, right? So are you seeing how you guys looking at that from an impact standpoint?
To be very honest, it is yet to be seen. And whatever we're thinking, our hypothesis for the future, the fundamental difference between an EV and a conventional car, if I may use that word, is that an EV is a simpler car. It has a lesser number of machines or mechanical parts moving in it, which probably is going to help accelerate the used car business, because then the used car product also becomes a standardized product. It's easier to ascertain the value of that product, and the fungibility of a more standardized and a product whose price discovery is easier is better, which means you can flip through cars faster. That is one way to look at it. But I think time will tell is how I can say.
When OLX, your business Cash My Car started, it kind of coincided with OLX's global investment into Frontier Car Group. Have you guys taken any of that tech or business solutions into building the India business and just kind of rode on the OLX brand name, or was this built from scratch?
So OLX Cash My Car is now a JV in India, and now Frontier Cars Group is almost all OLX. So we are all integrated and we work together. A lot of technology that we use is erstwhile FCG technology and now OLX technology. Our auctions and our inspections and our dealer components, which were earlier being powered by FCG, are now actually OLX team. So we are all one in this together, even in India and across wherever we've done.
So the new age used car business, including Cash My Car, has completely revolutionized the way that the second-hand car market works, right? Because if I remember going to a True Value or a Mahindra First Choice or anything, or your used car dealer on the corner of your road, right? There's an uncle who's always ready to value your car and give you some price, and he will say, "Ye car to nahi bikega," right? Ye to, you'll only get a couple of lakhs for this, right? The transparency to that process, using technology, I think you guys call it a 50-point checklist or something, which gives you the value of the vehicle. It's become a science almost, right? You can't fool the tech, nor can you, nor will you get a bad price. So I think there's a win-win for both the buyer and the seller to a large extent. It's getting more requests now because, now people are more comfortable just selling their car straight up instead of just waiting and looking for a moment to then upgrade to a new vehicle.
So our solutions have definitely made the ability to change or sell a used car easier and faster. And that's the value proposition that OLX Cash My Car has for our consumers, that You walk in with your car and you walk out with cash or walk out with money. And that has definitely helped people who really want to, who are moving places. I am moving to Bangalore. I want to sell my car now. And our solution is tailor-made for people like those. And as OLX, now we offer a platform which is a high liquidity listing classifieds platform. And then OLX Cash My Car. So what we are trying to do here is to marry both the needs of the consumer. One need, I want to sell instantly, get money, and that's OLX Cash My Car. But if I am wanting to sell my car through the OLX classifieds platform, that platform is still the most powerful used car platform, which has 70 to 80% of market share in the pre-owned cars listing. So we continue to be relevant from both perspectives to the consumer. And that is the power of OLX as a brand in this country also. And definitely the use case of people wanting instant cash is something which is far easier solved now, driven by the technology platforms that we've developed.
Does this accelerate with having a lot more locations? Is that offer high delta? Because I'm guessing the closer you get to the customer, the more you're able to get more access to cars. Is that the case? How important is the offline stores?
Very important, because offline stores get you credibility, that you are there to solve problems of the consumer, and this is pre-COVID. I will talk about how this has changed post-COVID as well. And from a footprint perspective, an average car transaction is between 3 to 4 lakh rupees for a pre-owned car. So we don't have to be present like a mom and pop store 2 minutes walk from the consumer. A consumer is willing to spend some time to come to our store to get a good price and to go through the whole experience. So there is definitely a difference between an instant need versus somebody willing to spend 30-40 minutes to come to our retail store and get the price and get the transaction done. And that is the philosophy which defines our footprint as well. So I don't see many thousand used car outlets in the Delhi city itself. This will be a few in less than 100 kind of a number. Post-COVID, because people are hesitant to come to a retail experience, home inspections and getting the car sold from home has also become an important part of our business. So people who are unwilling to come to a retail experience call for a home inspection. We have a safe, sanitized and thoroughly thought process where an inspection happens of the car at home. And then we do the whole transaction from home itself. That also has become a substantive part of our business.
How do you allocate pin codes? Because if you're saying 100 for a Delhi or a NCR, is there like a rule saying every 5 kilometer radius we need to have one? Because I know today's online process, you do an evaluation, and then it tells you, okay, this is the price that you could get if it is in the condition you say it is. Though we'll have to put it into our bidding system, where a lot of these, dealers who are the ones who are buying your car to then sell it downstream are going to be able to bid on this vehicle that they're about to buy, right? So then when you show up, like once you get the price and then you say, okay, go to these 5 locations, is there any rule that you guys follow on what kind of locations and where to place them?
Sure. I alluded to this in my previous answer as well. By making the number less than 100, what I meant was the overall footprint of a business like this. Today we operate around 15 retail centers in Delhi NCR. A simple rule of thumb which helps us allocate or find the location of our retail centers is that a consumer is willing to travel between 30 to 45 minutes to transact his pre-owned car. And basis this data point plus looking at the density of where pre-owned cars are, we are able to map our locations.
Are each of the stores franchise owned or is it company owned? Is it like, what is the model that you guys follow? And are those the dealers themselves?
So OLX Cash My Car are all our own stores. And in last couple of months, we've launched new franchisee stores called OLX Autos. We have the largest base of dealers who've been buying subscription packages from us on the OLX Classifieds platform. But now we help them leverage OLX Autos as a brand in the offline space. We help them with training, insurance, warranties, etc. And we help them sell the cars to the consumer also. So we operate two kinds of retail footprints today. One is OLX Cash My Car, where consumers can sell their car to us. And then OLX Autos, which are franchisee stores, where our partners sell cars to the consumer. And these are cars which have insurance, warranty, financing, all services together, a standardized experience so that the customer is able to do the transaction quickly.
But why aren't they the same though? Because I would imagine it would make it a lot easier, right? If you're doing the sale and the purchase in the same location, would be a far more effective, or they're completely different operations, so you'll have to look at them differently. Or there's a space requirement that autos might have to save or have the vehicles parked over there, so you need a different setup.
So where we are, Varun, is how our business shaped up. Initially, we saw the opportunity in C2B procurement, and we scaled C2B procurement under the brand OLX Cash My Car as our own stores. Now we believe that selling to the consumer and helping our partners post-COVID has become a very big opportunity. 80% of Indian partner ecosystem is unorganized. If we can help that ecosystem organize itself and scale the business that it has, and believe me, the biggest entrepreneurs in this country are people who are doing these small and medium businesses and growing our economy. If we can work with them, help them grow their business, then it is a win-win for OLX, for the consumer buying the car and the entrepreneur selling the car. We saw this opportunity post-COVID coming up in a very big manner, and we launched this separate.
That's interesting, right? Because like the spiel that you're giving me sounds like what a true marketplace guy is going to do. Because but you've been in the marketplace business for a while now. Like I don't know how Snapdeal was, but you spent the last decade just working on marketplaces. You're probably one of the few people who have such a extensive understanding of how marketplaces work. How did you kind of build on the number of dealers in this space? Was it hard to do that? Because technology for them is also a new thing, right? How do I get this done? How do I bid for a vehicle? How do I cheat the system? Yes.
OLX on the classified side has been working for a very long time. I joined OLX now almost 3 years back, but OLX on the partner side selling its classified subscription has been happening for a very long time. Okay. So partners are aware of OLX, partners are aware of the technology platform that OLX has, and in a way the bidding platform was an add-on to some of the services that we were already providing them.
Okay.
So it was an
you had like a base.
That's correct.
So you had like a base to start from. To basically then build this whole business on top. The delta must have been massive. How many cars do you guys move now through the system?
That's a tough one. Nasper's guy doesn't give out numbers.
Nasper's guys should give out numbers.
What I can tell you that in the last financial year, we did a GMV of $78 million, which was almost a 180% growth year on year.
What is the next milestone for a company like Cash My Car? How do you guys look at some of the competition? Because a lot of them have now also gotten decent amount of capital to go after, and capital, NBFC licenses, and so on, to then increase both in terms of not just lending, increasing the ability to sell, but also to have a larger inventory, on hand to read. Because I remember, Spinny, when I was trying to buy a vehicle, I would see the vehicle on the website and I would like it, and by the time I go to the store, it'll be sold, right? So they couldn't keep the car on the website long enough, and I thought that was mind blowing, and that's true sign of a product that's really working, right? Because I mean, it's also poor experience because you're not able to tell it, boss, you have to book it now or something else, which I'm sure they figured it out. This was a long time ago. But just that whole momentum that the business was getting. What's the next few months and a year going to look like for a business like yours?
So OLX Cash My Car. Now what we are doing is we are integrating it far deeper with OLX experience. Up till now, OLX Cash My Car has been operating as a business unit, but now we are embedding it in the OLX product far more strongly. So now in the flow on OLX Classifieds itself, we offer the user a choice whether she wants to list the car on the OLX platform or go through an inspection journey on Cash My Car. And the future for short to medium term is going to be far deeper integrations with the OLX mother platform. And we have the right scale and the right infrastructure at OLX Cash My Car to build it that way. Because OLX mother platform is 70 to 80% used car listing platform, and it is now time that we link these two things together. We integrate the user journeys together so that we create value for the user. And the way I like to define it is the user can choose to sell her car where she wants to, how she wants to, and get the money wherever she wants to. Even in the post-COVID world, that's become very, very important. Some people want to just put their car online and then get it sold via demand of OLX platform. Some people want to get instant cash, but they want to get it from their home itself. Some people are willing to come to our retail centers and then sell their cars. All these journeys will be created and tightly knit together in the platform.
Fun, man. Good luck. It seems like a lot of cool things happening. I see you're wearing a Steph Curry t-shirt. Are you following the season? I mean, the season's obviously been truncated, but
so this is my wife's choice. I am more of a tennis fan and prefer to play tennis in the morning.
Well, you can always watch. I mean, I haven't played basketball in a long time. Right? I'm the last time I held a basketball was probably a few years back. But hey, Amit, so nice to catch up. This has been fun.
It was a pleasure talking to you and reconnecting with you.
Same here, Amit. Do subscribe to the show if you haven't already.